Hello and welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and have a talk about them, or on special occasions and special times of year, we get together with some filmmakers to talk about their exciting new movies that are coming to you at festivals. And today is just such an occasion. I am here today with Patrick Rea, the director of Super Happy Fun Clown, which is having its UK premiere at Sunday at FrightFest this year. Patrick, how are you doing?
I'm doing just great. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you for joining us. I can imagine this time of year, you've already told me before we started recording, you're traveling over yourself as well.
Yep.
So thanks for taking a little bit of time when you could be resting up for your travel to come and chat with me.
Oh, there's no rest when you have two kids.
Brilliant. Well, and so you have family coming over with you to London as well. The kids not
Yeah.
coming. They
The
they
kids
stay
are not, they
around.
have to go back to school on Monday. So they're back, they're gonna be yeah, they have to go back to school. So it's gonna be just my wife and my parents flying over, and then Eric Winkler, who wrote the film and produced, is also flying over with his son. So it'll be, I think, six of us total flying over.
Amazing. Well, hopefully we'll catch you for a drink while you are there. But in the
Absolutely,
meantime,
absolutely.
actually, before I get into the film of the hour, obviously we've taken a little look at your film history, Patrick, and a wealth of genre and horror cinema. Not your first foray with clowns either, it would appear. Looking at your back catalogue, you have a wealth of horror that would give Jason Blum indigestion. There's so much to choose from. Where did it go wrong? What attracted you to horror as a filmmaker?
It's one of those things where it went wrong in the 80s, actually, when I was a little kid. I was,
It's always the way.
that's the way it is. Yeah. The movies like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, I was told not to watch them. And of course, at the time, I was very curious. So I would be like, I would have my television in my room and I'd be switching between a Friday the 13th movie and Nickelodeon. So the second I would hear my parents coming close to my bedroom, I would switch it back to Nickelodeon. They'd be like, "What were you watching?" So I mean, that's kind of how it was, the forbidden fruit, and so I think that's kind of what got me into it. And so I've just always liked horror for that reason, and it's just a fun genre. It's the only genre where you have so many different kinds of subgenres. You have, supernatural, you have vampires, werewolves, you have thriller. It's just there's just so many different ways you can go with it, and so that's why I've always just enjoyed the horror genre. And every time there's a horror movie released, I go see it. So I try to take in as much horror as a viewer as well, just because I like to know what's out there and what people are really enjoying at the time.
And I'd say the last few years, but this year in particular, such a strong year for horror, really, an independent horror that is fresh new ideas, a wonderful time. Any big highlights for you so far this year?
Well, I mean, definitely, I would say Weapons I just saw recently, and I thought that was excellent, just because I didn't know where it was going, and that felt fresh, like just not seeing ahead of time where the movie was going to go, and that's kind of that made it exciting. I purposely avoided spoilers for a week, before seeing it. Now it's like everywhere I go, there's spoilers, and so I was like, I'm glad I saw it early. But yeah, I really enjoyed that film.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think we've been in a very blessed situation this year where
Yeah,
you'll see a film and say, that's probably film of the year. And then next week you'll
yeah,
go to the cinema
right.
and go, that's probably film of the year.
Yeah, it's
Like,
been good. It's been good in that regard, and what's great about it is that they're not all IPs. I mean, they might become IPs at some point, but they're all fresh movies, and so and they're doing very well at the box office. They don't cost that much, so the studios are able to recoup and keep taking chances on these fresh movies. And it's a good time to be an independent filmmaker too. Just to get out there. And the technology has allowed us to really have the tools at our disposal now to make films relatively inexpensively. It's still a huge challenge to raise money and get out there and make a film. But I think the time is right, because the big Hollywood films are all superhero movies and not that I don't like the superhero movies, but it's a good time to make some fresh material.
yeah, and we can only hope that there are a generation of kids growing up right now who are being told not to watch this stuff, and it makes it all the more
Yeah,
appealing,
yes,
just
exactly. It
like
was
for us.
if my parents had said go ahead, I probably wouldn't be making romantic comedies at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was definitely my I always thank my parents for that. I'm like, yeah, thanks for telling me not to watch those movies because then I wouldn't have snuck around and done it. So
Yeah. I guess kids now are having to work with multiple tabs open instead of having like their hand on the clicker, right, to change the channel.
yeah, and you have browser history and all that stuff. Like now it's a little harder to it's easier to get the content more than anything. I mean, I remember having to wait. You hear that like you go through the TV guide and you're like, oh, it's going to be on at 2 p.m. on this specific channel, and then if you didn't catch it then you would have to go to the video rental place to rent it. So now it's just like kids don't understand that they don't have to wait to watch a movie. They can watch it. There's just so much stuff that they could just click on. And I kind of miss that the thrill of the hunt of going to the video store and trying to find a movie. That was, and I grew up in a small town in Nebraska, so we had maybe three places to rent movies. And if it was checked out at one, then you'd run over to the other place and see if it was checked out there. And the thrill of the hunt is what I miss, I
Yeah.
guess.
And that's even without touching on like, the black market when you were a kid as well. And it was like, well, this kid whose parents are a bit lax has got this stuff taped
Right,
off the
right, right,
TV.
right, 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 right. It would be like a videotape that had like, Care Bears, and then if you just fast forward a little further, it would be like, yeah, Friday the 13th or something like
Yeah.
that. So
And there's always the one kid at your school as well who like he's like the old storyteller around the fire because he has seen Nightmare on Elm Street
I
4.
remember specifically my next door neighbor, two houses down, he would come over and I would have him, his older sister had gone to see one of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and I was like, they explained it to me in such a way that I created a completely different movie in my head. And then when I finally saw it, I'm like, that's not at all what I thought it was. But it's that kind of that creating that image in your with your imagination and I remember the movie The Keep. My parents rented The
Oh, the
Keep,
keep.
and I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, and they locked me out of the room while they were watching it at my grandparents, and so I listened to it under the door, and uh, and that's another movie where I created a completely different movie in my head, and then when I finally saw it, I was like, oh, okay, that's not at all what I had created in my mind. So
I mean, it is definitely about you mentioned it, like that the attraction of it being
yeah,
banned from you as well. If you think about particularly of our vintage, then Patrick, you've got these horror films that people were saying don't go to watch, but I can tell you, certainly when I was a kid, it was like, hey, the one VHS tape at your grandparents' house is the Disney's Robin Hood with the foxes, which has
yeah,
created a whole different subset of deviancy in our modern era.
right, right, exactly, exactly.
So, we've talked about your history as a horror fan. What brought you to filmmaking? Is it something that you decided you want to do and you studied, or did you fall into it as a hobby?
Oh, I started. It's a weird thing because my high school had its own channel that broadcast to everybody in town, and the purpose was for basketball, football games, and sports. But I took it upon myself to make these weird little movies, and for whatever reason, they just let me do whatever I wanted. I don't think they would ever do that again. And I would air them and just play them 24 hours on this channel, and then I'd be able to go home, click on my TV and switch it to the channel, and then my movie would be playing. Granted, they were terrible, but it was one of those things where it got me the bug started. I was able to kind of see what it was like to make something and get a reaction out of people in some capacity. So that was kind of where it all started. And then I ended up going to the University of Kansas in Lawrence, Kansas for film school. And then I ended up, I graduated in 2002 from KU, and then I decided not to rush out to Los Angeles. I decided to just make films in the Midwest, and that's kind of how I just kind of stayed here and just kept making stuff, and that's kind of where I'm at now. My last several features have all been shot around the Kansas City, Missouri area because I live in Kansas City now, which is about 45 minutes from Lawrence, Kansas, and so Kansas and Missouri are like I don't live that far from the border, so like every day I'm on the Kansas side, or I'm flip-flopping back and forth. But so I decided to stick around and make the films here, and I've been working with a lot of the same crew members now for almost 20 years. So it's kind of like we've created our own little group of a team that and we're always expanding and bringing in new people. But there's never been a reason for us to leave because we've just been able to do it here. And now we have tax credits in Missouri and Kansas City, so bigger productions are coming into town. And so the film industry in Kansas City is kind of booming right now. We just had Ted Lasso in town filming,
Oh,
and
wow.
so it's cool. It's like I'm glad I chose to stay here and just I'm able to raise my family and not uh I mean so it's again it's challenging because you're in the Midwest and it's still hard to find financing and get things going, but it's allowed me to have a life outside of
Yeah.
filmmaking, and so
Those are the things that are important to your life
right.
as
And
well,
I
right?
kind of like I'm able to own a house and raise my kids and still pursue this. So
Oh, wonderful. So, I mean, we'll get into its origins right now, but I'll pause briefly and give folks listening a little bit of the write-up on Super Happy Fun Clown, your film premiering. It's getting its UK premiere at FrightFest this year. Jennifer Sullivan works in a menial, low-paying job. Her mother and slovenly husband emotionally abuse her, rubbing her nose in her perceived failures. Her only comfort in this miserable life is her side gig entertaining people at the local park as Jenn-O the Clown. As her dreams of happiness slowly fade away, Jennifer decides to embrace the mantra that infamy equals immortality. And this is an expansion of a short film you released a few years ago, right?
correct. I actually weirdly enough we shot the short film early 2023 and it started playing at film festivals, and then we moved right into making the feature at the end of 2023. And production for the feature kind of it overlapped into 2024 as well, just because of money and timing and all that stuff. But we shot the majority of the feature at the end of the year, so it was around November, December of 2023, while the short film was kind of circulating on the film festival circuit. It played at like Nightmares Film Festival and Panic Fest, and so it kind of got a good reaction, and I wanted the feature to feel like a true expansion, so I kept a lot of the editing choices the same and such. But so it was a full year of that story. And what attracted me to the short film was that there was no dialogue. It's just set to music,
Mhm.
and I wanted to make something that was all visual with no dialogue. Obviously, the feature has dialogue. She doesn't speak when she's the clown, but yeah. So it started out as a short, got a good reaction, and then we moved right into the feature at the end of that year, and it's yeah. So we ended up, I think, wrapping the film in April of 2024, and then I took almost a solid year to get the post-production complete. And we're still tweaking. We're always tweaking until we release the movie on streaming platforms. We're going to be tweaking it.
Until it's literally wrenched from your hands, you'll
I
still
mean, that's
be.
kind of like whenever I deliver the movie to the distributor, I'm like, well, I guess I'm done until they tell me that otherwise. But we're gonna, obviously watch it on the big screen in London, and something might pop out that we have to fix. But it's always just it's a constantly evolving, and there's always something that can be fixed. And yet it's always the phrase movies aren't finished, they're abandoned is kind of true. You At some point you just gotta say, all right, we're pencils down, we're done.
Yeah,
You
time's
know,
up.
time's up. So, but yeah, no, it's been great, and we had a fun time filming the movie, and we did December in Kansas City when we were filming the feature was surprisingly warm. It didn't get really bad until January, but then we decided to do the finale of the movie takes place in this haunted house where she's going from these different rooms, and at the time we didn't want to shoot those scenes because in the November December area because they don't have any heat inside the haunted houses.
Oh, wow.
So it would have been like for the makeup and all that stuff, it would have been too cold. For the crew, it would have been too cold. So we decided to shoot that portion in the spring of 2024, just so that they would it would be warmer, and it also gave us more time to prep and all that stuff. So that was kind of how we separated the production.
Yeah. And it's a really interesting case to expand as well. As we said before we started, I was thankfully, thanks to you
Yeah,
sending us the link, I was able to see the short, and I really enjoyed the silent nature of it as
yeah,
well. And
yeah,
I appreciate how in the film the feature film, you've actually expanded that to the fact that Jennifer doesn't speak when she's in her
yeah.
clown persona. Was there any part of you that thought, I imagine for commercial viability, you didn't, did you ever consider I could make a feature length which is entirely
Oh,
piano
yeah.
music?
I mean, we thought about it, and then we thought, well, yeah, we decided that, yeah, we had to meet that halfway, and not make it fully silent. Otherwise, you're right, it would be much harder of a sell, And so I don't know, and yeah, I think the way we did it is the way that we needed to do it.
Yeah.
So
And I think there's a lot to be had here. And like anything that inspired you in particular. I know when Ben and I were talking about this in the previews from the write-up, he coined the term falling clown. Someone brought up
yeah,
the
falling
it's
down into falling. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. I know that there was some mention of comparing it to Joker, but I didn't have that movie in my mind when we were making it. But weirdly enough, I was kind of like the way I framed some of the shots. My DP, I had my DP center the shot with the actor is kind of in the center. I was like kind of trying to make the anti-Wes Anderson movie or something like that. I don't
Okay.
know. Very like but there's a little bit of sprinkle of John Waters in there and Trauma as well. Like you get that kind of that feel from it. And I just wanted to, what attracted me to it was first of all, it was a female clown horror movie, which there aren't that many, if any, that I can think of. And I wanted to make a slasher movie that had a little bit more of a character arc, and it had some psychology to it, and people. It's strange because we premiered the movie at Panic Fest, and I had one person tell me that they're like, she's doing these horrible things, but yet I still kind of like her. She's
Hmm.
likable, and that's kind of what we were going for. Was keeping the character you don't agree with what she's doing at all, but there's part of her that's charming still.
Yeah, I think that's something that really struck me as I was watching the movie as well, is that, and I won't conjure any names of any other horror-based clowns at the moment, but sometimes if a film or if a villain of any kind, clown or otherwise, is just thoroughly unpleasant, then you kind of lose a bit of sympathy for
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the violence. You don't want to see them do okay and win. But I think what you've achieved very well with Jenn-O the Clown is that because you can see how she's been brought to this point,
yeah,
because she isn't just a character which is you are uncomplicatedly just
yeah,
evil.
yeah,
Um, you can see where she's coming from, and that allows you to maintain a degree of sympathy and a degree of maybe you could just get away with this and it'll be fine.
right, exactly. And I cast my daughter actually plays the young version of Jenno at the beginning of the movie, and I felt like my daughter and Jen both kind of had looked the same, and I felt like it kind of worked. But you definitely like it creates the first part of the movie where she's a kid creates a little bit more of a connection with her and shows that she had a good side, and then it just kind of she's been beaten down by the time she finally snaps.
Mhm.
And so that was our goal, was to create an arc that when she finally snaps, and I mean, you're making a horror movie, so at some point she's got to start
Yeah,
going after people. So you have to kind of remember what kind of movie you're making. But for me, like I wanted the movie to have some humor in there, and so it's called Super Happy Fun Clown. So I wanted it to be fun. I didn't want it to be, too Joker-esque in the point where it's just not fun at all. It's just So there are moments in there where some people were like, "Do I laugh or do I not laugh?" And I'm like, that's kind of the fun part of it, is that there's a dark humor to it. I mean, she like literally in the film dances after she kills her husband. It's like the movie isn't taking itself that seriously. The actual story and the content is serious, but there's elements to it that I want people to laugh. I want people to, cheer a little bit.
yeah.
Um, you know,
And I think, especially for a film festival
yeah,
audience, and the crowd that you've been to FrightFest before, you know the
Yeah,
type of crowd we have in there.
yeah,
I expect that we won't spoil it here, but that scene in the haunted house that you mentioned
yeah,
earlier that we have towards the end in one of the final acts of the film, I
yeah.
think will go down an absolute treat.
Yeah, yeah, and that haunted house looks so good on camera. It's like just amazing. Because I remember reading the script and I was just like, how are we gonna do this? And so we did have to really work to arrange to get that filmed inside of a real haunted house. Especially in the spring when they're not open, you know.
Yeah.
So it was that was challenging and but it worked out. And I'm really glad it worked out because it looks great.
So we've talked about Jennifer, the person, the character, and Jenn-O the Clown. Talk to me a little bit about how you found and started working with Jennifer Seward, your lead actor here.
I have worked with her for a long time, actually. I've known her. She was in a feature film that I directed called I Am Lisa. And so she's been in several of my films. So um, Eric had her in mind when he was writing the script. So
Okay.
it worked out. She's a local actress here in Kansas City.
Okay, amazing. And you're not obliged to know her CV off by heart, but has she done any sort of clowning or physical work in her
I've had
past?
people ask me this, and it's funny because I had another interview where that same question came up, and everybody's like, "Has she done clowning before?" And I'm like, "No." It's she was just maybe she's just a natural at it. We did have funny enough, a production assistant on the film who also does clowning. So she was there if we had any questions. In fact, the clown you see at the beginning of the movie where the clown is handing a balloon to my daughter, the young version of Jenn-O, that's the production assistant Morgan who also does clowning. So if we had any questions we could ask her, but for the most part it was all Jen, just doing her thing. And if we thought it wasn't working, we'd tell her, but she just kind of unleashed her clowning potential.
Yeah,
So
she's genuinely really good. I would have you could have told me that you went and got someone from the local clown college and
yeah,
that's where
well,
you
and
met her because
she
she's really natural at it.
she had the short film as a warm up. That's the thing is that we kind of got all the kinks out with the short film, and so by the time we got to the feature, she just kind of fell right into the role. So
I mean, I don't know what the historical precedence for this is, but if Jen ends up being the first person in history to get actually an honorary degree from Clown College, that would be incredible.
it
Get
would
her
be.
in, give her the
Yep,
certificate.
yep.
Yeah,
That way, that can
yeah,
be her side hustle. I don't know, like but yeah, no, she did great.
yeah. And seeing her go for it, let's be fair. Bearing in mind, in real life, she's not a terrible murderer. If I was in need of a clown, I'd book her.
Exactly, exactly.
So you're coming over. We're having a UK premiere at Fright Fest this year. Have you managed to see this film with an audience so far already in the US?
Yes, we did our world premiere at Panic Fest, and it was a sold out crowd, and it went over great. I mean, Panic Fest is in Kansas City, and it's become one of the bigger horror festivals in the country. But it's like 10 minutes from my house, so it's really, really convenient.
Do you
And
feel it's
so
more or less pressure doing it in front of a home crowd?
uh, you know, for me it was scary just because we weren't 100% done with the audio mix at all, and so we just had to kind of like you know, explain to the audience that there were some things that we were still working on, and but the reaction was solid. I think there was a lot of stuff that the general audience, didn't even notice that we were still tweaking. So for me, that part was scary, just because I wasn't sure what to expect hearing it, in a you've been watching it on a computer and now you're seeing it on the big screen and you just never know what you're going to see that you didn't catch. So, but the response was great. And so this will be my second time seeing it with an audience. And this time, obviously, it'll be with people who had nothing to do with the movie. So that'll tell again, like it won't be friends and family. It'll be an actual crowd of people who are seeing it with no preconceived notions. So that's cool. And so and of course it'll be the first time my parents have seen it too. So we'll see how that goes. But it's exciting. And I this is I said the fourth feature I've played at Fright Fest. I had a film called Enclosure, when it actually premiered, it was called Enclosure with Fiona Dorff and Jake Busey when it premiered at Fright Fest, and then when in the US it got retitled to Arbor Demon, which was not my choice. And then I had a film, I Am Lisa, which I Am Lisa screened it at Fright Fest the year it was virtual because it was
Okay.
during COVID. And then I had my film They Wait in the Dark play at Fright Fest in 2022. So this is my fourth film and my third time attending. So I'm excited.
Well, long may this streak continue,
Yeah, I
Patrick.
hope so. I hope
And
so.
if anyone listening, this is the first time you've encountered Patrick's work, or if you see Super Happy Fun Clown next week and you enjoy it, we've got a back catalogue for you, so
Yep.
you can go out and seek those out wherever they may be available from wherever you're listening. So we've talked about screening with an audience. In your ideal world, if you get to pick these things, how would you like to see an audience react to this? What makes you comfortable if you're sitting in the back of the room and you're watching them react?
I mean, I want them to laugh, but I want there to be some uncomfortableness to it. I mean, there's stuff in there that's not meant to be. It's supposed to be kind of like, do I laugh or do I not laugh? So if there's silence, that uncomfortableness is okay, because then I have the humor to kind of, And I noticed the movie Weapons did this as well, where there would be a lot of tension, and then they would have, some humor to kind of break it up. And I feel like horror. I always tell people, comedy and horror are brother and sister. So, they're paired together a lot in movies. So I would like to see the audience just have a good time, and at the end of the day they had fun watching it. I mean, it's meant to be fun, and maybe they'll want to say, hey, when are you going to make a sequel? I don't know.
She's certainly got a good silhouette and an interesting visual and a visual aesthetic for a horror character. I say this before, for me, like, there are sequels you can expand on those things. For me, when I see a new killer turn up in a
Yeah,
horror movie, I think, how good would it be if they included them as a cameo in the next Mortal Kombat game? And I could see her in this.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I, I could see
totally.
it. If you're listening, Ed
Can you
Boon,
can you see her in on a t-shirt, like can you
yeah.
see like merchandise maybe? I don't know. And there's like all these different looks. We wanted to have all these different looks for her. So there's opportunities for, different styles of merchandise with her different looks. So
Yeah, do you have a favorite look that she goes through in the
uh
movie?
the one with the green wig is probably my favorite. And then yeah, that's probably my favorite is the green.
I'm a big fan of grungy post house party incident
Yeah, the
look.
stocking cap and the yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's
We
a
had a we
that's
had a great wardrobe and makeup team on this movie. Candy Erickson and Nicole Hobbs both. They did makeup and wardrobe and creating the different looks and stuff, and so they did a fantastic job. So
well, amazing. And hopefully we're going to turn these interviews around quite quickly, guys. So at the time of listening to this, if you listen to it when it drops and you are attending Fright Fest, you may still have a little bit of time to grab some tickets to adjust your Discovery screening viewing as well if you're going to be there live. Um, but let's talk about the future. Sadly, not everyone can be in London next weekend. So, are you looking for other festivals around the world? Are you looking for long-term
yeah,
screening? What's
we
the
we
plan?
we've submitted to several more film festivals, but we signed with a distributor, the Horror Collective, which actually is a sponsor of Fright Fest. And so I don't quote me on this, but I think they're putting the movie out in December. Obviously, I have to get all the materials to them. And that's when it's done.
That's what is finished.
That's when I've handed it off to them, and I'm like, I can't do anything more. So I think that we'll probably have some sort of streaming release, and I think they're gonna try to do physical media because we recorded a commentary track for the movie. So fingers crossed that we get some physical media with this. And so that should probably be the end of the year. But in between, I think there's going to be hopefully a few more festivals in there. I mean, once you get a distributor, it's a little harder only because a lot of festivals are looking for stuff that
Is not
is
distributed yet,
is
right?
world premieres. And
Mhm.
so once you have your world premiere and your UK premiere and stuff, it gets the chances of festivals gets a little smaller. So I would say look for it. I mean, and we did we've done worldwide rights with the Horror Collective, so I'm assuming that means that we'll probably have a UK release fairly soon as well. So
Amazing. So if people were following along with you and wanted to learn about any news that you get on distribution and also what you're working on next or currently, where is the
yeah.
best place for them to follow you and to
I
keep up
mean,
with the news?
obviously Instagram. I think I'm Patrick M. Ray, all lowercase on Instagram, and then I think I'm also Patrick M. Ray on Facebook. So I'm always like updating and posting and kind of. I don't post anything personal on Facebook or Instagram. It's always having to do with what I'm working on and stuff. So I'm also on Blue Sky and Twitter. So I'm constantly posting and updating and hopefully we'll have some new stuff in the future coming up. So
Amazing. And is there anything that you're eyeing for your next project just now? You don't have to tell me if it's top secret.
uh I've got several things I'm working on. There's obviously sequels that we want to do to different projects and I did a found footage movie actually that came out earlier this year called The Night Is Young, and that should be coming out internationally soon as well. With Terror Films, the team that put out the Hell House movies.
Oh,
So I wanted to go out and make a sequel to that, and that was kind of an experiment in just going out and making a movie and pulling people together because it's a found footage movie. So it's a little, I was able, but it was very, very challenging. And so then I've got some sequels that I'm working on, and I've got some original stuff that I'm working on as well. So it all comes down to money and
yeah.
raising the money and hopefully we're going to be filming them all in Kansas City, Missouri. So.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, we shall keep our eyes peeled for your on your feeds for those news as well. And of course, Patrick, behind the scenes, everyone. Patrick's been lovely to talk to. If you ever want to come and
Yeah,
tell us anything else, you're welcome anytime. Um,
appreciate it.
when it comes down to clowns in horror, they're having a fairly good run. I think a fairly strong history,
Yeah.
clowns in horror, right? I'm not going to limit you to horror with this question. Do you have any favorites? Favorite clowns in your life?
Hmm. I mean, probably Tim Curry's version of Pennywise.
It's hard to beat.
I was like almost 11 years old when that premiered on TV, and so that was a seminal thing for me. I recorded it on VHS and so whenever I think of horror movie clowns, my brain immediately goes to Tim Curry's version of Pennywise.
Yeah.
Though it's funny, my sister is horribly afraid of clowns. She has I don't think it's quite like paralyzing, but she gets creeped out. And so when Killer Clowns from Outer Space was showing on HBO every day, I would make her watch it, and she, reminds me of how horrified that was, she was for that. So, um, I mean, granted, she was probably 5 or 6 years old
Yeah.
when I was
So
showing it
fair.
to her.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I would definitely go with Tim Curry's Pennywise for my favorite.
Yeah. That one has a unique place in my heart as well. I was genuinely afraid of seeing the It movie for an extended period of time before watching it. So I would have probably been very early secondary school, so maybe 11 years old when it was not released as a thing, when it was first screening on British television.
Mhm.
And at the time, there's that piece, I think it is in the second part of the miniseries, where there is a black and white photo and Pennywise is in it and he runs up and he stands on the lamppost and he leans out
Yeah,
and
and
says,
yeah,
and he's like, "I'll kill you, you rotten
yeah, yeah.
kids." Um, that was what BBC just used as the promo for the film that was
Oh,
coming out.
that's
So I just walked
lovely.
into the room at some point of one evening, and there was just this horrible clown on the TV
Yeah,
leaning out, addressing me as the audience directly from my perspective, saying, "I'm gonna kill you." And I was like, "This is horrible." And I think I was probably 14, 15 before I brought myself to watch it, and then it
yeah,
was my one of my favorites after that.
yeah, yeah. No,
What a time.
I remember. I know the exact moment you're talking about. They did that really great documentary about making uh, it. That's been playing on Screenbox and stuff, and so they actually show that part in the documentary. So Uh,
Any strong feelings about the remake and the upcoming Welcome
I,
to Derry series?
I'll watch it. The remake was, I thought it was solid. It will never have the same place in my heart as it's probably a better version of it, but it's not the version I grew up with. And I think it's funny because my daughter, I think, sees that version of it as that's her version of it.
Hmm.
That's because that for me was like she was very young when the first part came out. I'm like, you're not watching that, and then of course she's like kind of checking it out on
She had those
YouTube.
two tabs open.
Yes, exactly. So I think it's her version and not my version, but I still liked it.
Yeah, yeah, same. And I think you're into some real deep cinema fandom here when you can objectively realize that maybe the objectively better version of a story is still not your favorite one or the
Yeah, no,
one
I
you
feel
like
that way a
best.
lot sometimes. I'm always kind of like, okay, the bigger budget, slicker, more polished version is not the version that I like the most. And that's, I mean, you look at like Friday the 13th, and they had the remake in 2009. And so like people that are 15 to 20 years younger, that's their version,
Hmm.
and then for me, the original is my version. And so it's like, but one is a lot more, low budget and rough around the edges, and the other one's a slick studio film. So it's like, technically one is better made than the other, but it
Yeah,
but you have to, the charm is gone. You have to
yeah.
have that charm of the low budget style.
I think especially talking to people like yourself who make films and know the struggles behind the scenes as well, there's a certain love that comes from the grit and the effort
Yeah,
that you can see
yeah,
that was made in these things rather than, oh, we did this and it cost this many $1 million and this many hours of computer
yeah.
processing
Yeah,
time when it
right. We
was,
didn't have to do any makeup because we just did CGI later, and
yeah,
that's again like for me, and again, you can take the recent Jurassic World movies as an example. Like the Jurassic Park people have to realize that a lot of those dinosaurs were animatronic.
yeah,
Not all of them were CGI. I think most of it was like, the wide shots were CGI, but like up close, it was animatronic. And so, it's now everything's CGI, and so
yeah,
it's a lot different. And
yeah.
my
And
daughter,
having,
my daughter's making a cameo in our interview.
oh,
Uh,
we'll have to make sure she hits the IMDb page when I upload the stats from this.
but yeah, so I would say, yeah, the older, creakier versions of movies are usually the ones I like. And again, it just depends on your generation.
It does. There's really nice time to be into horror, whether you've got the past to go to or all this wonderful stuff that's coming out now. Patrick, I have one final question for you. We obviously run a podcast called the Horror Hangout here, so I'm going to put you in charge of your very own. You got your friends coming round for a horror movie evening. Mixed crowd, let's say not all hardcore horror fans. It's going to be a mixed group. What are you choosing? You can have a single or a double feature. I'll allow you that one, but what are you putting on?
Oh man, that is really hard. Because it's like, do I pick something old or do I pick something new?
Yeah, and it's not just
Uh,
asking your favorite either. It's what are you going to show to this crowd that's coming around. They're going to be, I'm not going to judge you for this, Patrick, but they will. There's imaginary people that are coming around to your house.
oh man. I mean, part of me, let me think here. I kind of want to torture them. I'm sorry. Like I would put Halloween 3 on and just to upset them. And the thing is that Halloween 3 is probably one of my favorite horror movies, and it's divisive in the sense that some people love it and some people hate it. And I was kind of in high school the guy who made people watch that movie, and they still remember that. They're like, I remember you forcing me to watch Halloween 3, and I'm like, I'm going to continue to do that. I will
Good.
continue that.
Never change.
Yes, yes. I love that movie.
Yeah, same. Tom Adkins, what a hero.
Yes, yes, exactly. And it's one of those things where, and I don't tell very many people this, but I'm going to tell you that once October starts, I usually play that movie on loop behind me as I'm working. And it becomes just background noise, but like I just play it on loop.
Now I can imagine you just walking around your house singing the how many days left to Halloween the
Yeah,
whole
my kids,
time.
my kids have started to do that, so that's it's become a tradition.
Good choice, I think. Excellent choice. There are no complaints there. And also, You're not getting them stuck into series that, oh, which timeline is this in? Just the season of the witch
It's its
timeline.
own
Thank you
thing.
so much.
Exactly. Exactly.
Brilliant choices. Well, thank you, Patrick,
Thank
for
you.
spending a little bit of time with us. While I am thanking people, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks for Acast for hosting the show. If you want to jump on over in the Facebook, you can find the Horror Hangout Board of Advisors over there. If you like what we're doing, especially at this season when we're putting out these bonus episodes, you can get yourself over to Patreon/Horror Hangout. Chuck us a few bucks, help us to keep the lights on. We'll keep the lights on anyway, but we appreciate it. Um, Patrick, thank you very much for
Thank you for
spending some
having me.
time this afternoon. Safe journey in the next few days when you get over, and keep a lookout for us when you're around. Give us a wave if you have any
Absolutely.
time. We'll grab a drink or something. I look exactly like this except a bit taller.
I probably won't be wearing a hat, but I will be. Yeah, my hair will be combed this time. But yeah, I will wave at you. We will share a
Yeah,
beer.
that would be excellent. I hope it goes down an absolute storm. We certainly enjoyed it. Good luck with Super Happy Fun Clown, and
Thank
we'll
you.
see you in London.
Appreciate it.
Bye for now, Patrick, and
Bye.
goodbye, everybody else. Bye for now.